Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February the 11th, 10:09, and this is the Budget and Public Employees Committee. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tanier. Vice Chair Browning.
Present.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Present.
Alderman Devotie.
Present.
Chair Aldred.
Present.
Alderwoman Tanier. 4 present. We have quorum.
With that, we have established a quorum. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, February 4th, 2020.
I move that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, February 4th, 2026.
Second.
It was moved by the Alderman from the 9th, seconded by the Alderman from the 5th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tanier. Vice Chair Browning.
Aye.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Aye.
Alderman Devotie.
Aye.
Chair Aldred.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tanier. We have 4 aye votes.
With that, we approve the minutes from Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. We'll move on to item number 4, which is board bills for review. And today we have Board Bill 98, sponsored by Alderwoman Keys. Whenever you're ready, you may come up to present your bill.
Good morning, Budget Committee. May I please have the clerk or secretary to read the summary? Thank you.
Board Bill number 98, introduced by Alderwoman Laura Keys. This board bill seeks to authorize the assurance by the city, acting through the treasurer of the city in his capacity as supervisor of parking meters, of up to $5 million aggregate principal amount of parking revenue bonds. The bonds will be secured and payable solely from the parking assets pledged under the indenture of trust dated as of December 1st, 2006, as amended and supplemented from time to time, including real property and future income. Proceeds from the sale of the bonds will be used to 1. Finance the cost of the acquisition of certain real estate, provide for the funding of any required debt service reserve funds, if any, and pay the costs associated with insuring the bonds.
So the bonds that the Treasurer's Office are able to take out to secure the lot at the corner of Compton and Olive will help in so many ways for Pappy's Restaurant, which is their tenant, as well as Harris Stowe, who has a bookstore which is right in back of their campus. There were some concerns about this bill. Those have all been ironed out. And we have experts here this morning to talk about those things, including Adam Lane, who is our city's treasurer.
All right, thank you, Ms. Keys. Alderwoman Keys, did you want to have did you have any experts to?
I would like for Mr. Lane to probably begin, and then we can call the others from there. And I'm sorry, how many people do we have altogether? Just you? Okay. We'll say 7 people. Well, let's go ahead and swear everybody in first, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Everyone that is speaking today, could you raise your, just the treasurer. Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Lane, come on up, our illustrious treasurer. Will you be going through the presentation?
Yes, yes.
All right. If we could pull that on up, Madam Clerk. Morning, Mr. Treasurer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Are you ready? You going to swear me in? Oh, I don't need to be sworn in.
Yeah, you're a city employee.
Okay, all right.
We hope all city employees tell the truth, right?
Yep. I solemnly swear. All right, good morning, again, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. So I'll wait until the presentation is pulled up, but I'll take a moment to introduce myself. So I am Adam Lane. I serve as treasurer for the city of St. Louis. A few things that fall under my purview: investment management for the city of St. Louis is 1. Our cash management for the city, 2. Our Office of Financial Empowerment, which puts on financial literacy programming for youth and adults, is number 3. And then number 4, under the purview of what we're talking about today, is parking. So about 8,000 metered spaces.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lane. Could you speak into the mic?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
I'm usually not tall, but
Oh, you can take it off either way.
I was going to try to raise it. That's as tall as it goes. I'll talk into it. And then parking. So we might manage about 8,000 metered spaces that are on street, and then we have a total of 12 lots and garages that we have across the city. We can go to the next slide. So the bill that we're talking about today is relatively simple, so I'm going to use some time to talk about why we're here and do some information sharing about the role of the Treasurer's Office in development, particularly as it relates to parking. So lately, as a city is trying to grow and trying to go through this renaissance, we have been, and as we have a lot of businesses and organizations that are growing too, there has been a demand, more of a demand to work with our office in being able to provide parking. And we get a lot of requests in, so there is an opportunity, or probably will be an opportunity, that we're back in front of you sometime in the future to support development and growth in the city of St. Louis. So what we do is, in addition to operating our parking garages and lots, private entities often look to us as a partner to be able to provide parking where either they cannot because of more expensive financing methods that they'd have to go through, or just an opportunity for the city to be able to control and manage that parking through our current portfolio, which provides a great economy of scale. Usually our parking spaces are 15 to 20% lower in price for the public as well compared to private entities. And then again, as an enterprise fund, we do have the authority to be able to issue bonds. So the question is, why are we here today? Government checks and balances. So one of the things which I, agree with is anytime we need to sell or buy something, we need to get Board of Alderman approval. So what that does is allow you all as legislators to see, what the city is doing with its finances and making sure that we're good stewards of that too. We have a very lucrative space or lot or garage, and the treasurer just goes ahead and sells it. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, we just lost an asset. So that just gives this process gives an additional check and balance for our office. We can go to the next slide. Cool. So this project specifically is the lot that was formerly a BP gas station at the corner of Compton and Olive. What this project will do initially, so this parcel was up for sale. We looked into that and thought it would be a great opportunity for the city to be in this space for many reasons. But it would create 143 spaces. And you can see that red area is outlining the parcel that we will have. And then you can see additional data on the total site area. One of the big things, it will initially be a parking lot, but we are big in neighborhood development, so we want to work on what the neighborhood finds important. So I was happy to work with the Alderwoman Keys, on making sure that we had the right folks at the table to be able to talk about what the needs of the neighborhood are. So I want to stress that this wasn't just the Treasurer's Office saying, oh, we need a parking lot here, but more so being able to say, all right, this is an opportunity for the city to support development and growth in this area in line with what the neighborhood needs, knowing that we have a lot of neighborhoods in St. Louis that have a lot of varying needs. So we have to do what's right by those places. It was also very important to the seller because the seller did get other offers well above our offer for this property, but it's very important to the seller who had it as a gas station before, him believing that it should not be a gas station, and then if it was left there, not wanting it to be a nuisance property either. We can go to the next slide. So this is just more about the what we would turn this into. So if you look to the far right, I don't have a laser pointer, but if you look to the far right, so that is that corner space. So that's Compton and Olive right there. And you can see the diagram outlining the new creation of the spaces. The centerpiece, if you're familiar with this lot and what it was prior to, but that centerpiece was that gas station. But it's a parking lot, so not too much that I need to go into here. If we go to the next slide, though, and talking about the neighborhood development, so one of the things that I do want to stress, if you look close to, so what would that be? My north, southwest, and east aren't great, but if you look toward the east side of the fields, so on the screen to the left, you'll see that building that Harris Stowe building. Directly behind it, there's actually a new access pathway, and we were in our conversations with Harris Stowe because we wanted this to be something that was beneficial to all the stakeholders. They talked about the opportunity to have that access path because on this property is the Harris Stowe bookstore. So that creates an access path directly from the university to their bookstore, where previously, or I guess right now, what Harris Stowe students have to do is walk all the way around to be able to get to that bookstore. So it provides a good footpath and traffic for them. And then, yeah, this is just another view of that area. We can go to the next slide. Cool. So the need for public parking, and I will speak to, I'll speak to these points first, and then I'll go into some other concerns that have come up. So one is just the economic growth. We know that there's demand for this because of the business that the Chaifetz Arena does. And one might say, well, they have a big parking garage that's right there, and that is a private lot. And I'll speak more to private lots in a bit. But with that, there is always overflow. So this lot previously was pretty full. Granted, they had a limited number of spaces because of the gas station that existed. This lot was pretty full even during those Chaifetz Center events. The other thing about that is with that parking garage being a private lot, they can open for events, but they don't necessarily have to. So that is not something that's public and open to the public 24/7. So if there is an event going on in the Olive District, or I guess the Locust District, and that does not have anything to do with the Chaifetz, that garage might be open, it might be closed, but if it is closed, that's their prerogative, and that demand, it has to be pushed somewhere. So there is a big demand for parking in this area, I will say. And then also for the properties that are on there, so Pappy's is on that. They've provided a letter of support, and they have immediate and expanding needs for parking as well. And there is a provision in the agreement as well to make sure that we have those reserved spaces for Pappy's and their customers. So they'll have that. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Cool. Prevalence of private parking. So in a nutshell, and I'm sure you all know this from your work as alders, whenever a developer, especially a developer that might have housing units, is putting up that development, they usually try to make it more attractive by saying that there will be parking spaces offered for those who want it. And what that actually creates, and you can see that a lot in this district, are spots that have private parking, but it's specifically for that building. So a developer could put up a building that has 100, let's say 200 units, and they have 75 units of parking on their private parking lot. If they have 75 tenants that use that parking, great. That parking lot is full. Oftentimes, that's not really the case. So they might have a lot that has 75 spaces and 25 people are using it on average. And then when you multiply this by multiple developments in that space, you have underutilization of private lots. The problem, well, that's already a problem. The further problem there is that if there are public events, people can't park on these lots. So if they're going to Pappy's, they can't park on the private lot for, ABC lofts. So it appears that, well, there's more parking available there and there are more lots there. They're just not public lots and lots that people can use to access public parking. I think this is a larger problem and one that my team is looking to, I wouldn't say solve, but looking more into how the Treasurer's Office and the Public Parking Division of the city can be a solution generating entity in this space and really take the lead in working with developers. But this actually works to solve that. So if a developer saying, hey, we want to put up residential units, we need 25 parking spots, instead of actually building their own parking lot or securing space to put up a private parking lot, they would just do a master lease with the Treasurer's Office, which is what we do with a lot of other residential developments in spaces, just to make sure that we're being efficient as a city and maximizing our space in the best way. But they would enter a master lease, they go and promote their development, say that we have 25 spots available for their 100 units or whatever it may be, and then they're actually using that public parking. They have their master leases and still are able to capture transient parking for events and anything else that might happen. So what this allows us to do, again, is have developers that know that there are public options that they can partner with to get those leases, have parking available for their tenants without putting up yet another lot. I think there was a comment online, and I love online comments, but there was a comment online about like, how does more parking lots mean less parking lots? And that's actually one way. The more, I would say, public parking lots that we can create, so that if there are 2 developers coming in, they need 50 parking lots instead of having 2 lots that are going to be at 25% occupancy. We can use a treasurer's office lot, a public parking lot, to be able to satisfy that developer need, and then make sure that we either have more green space, make sure that we have more land for development that's going to be storefronts and things that are not just parking lots and garages that are sitting. Next slide. Cool. Appraisal overview. So we got an appraisal. It appraised for 3.4. So yeah, so that's the appraisal. Next slide. And then improvements. So the initial improvements, it's about, let's see, it's a little small. Maybe it's on mine. Okay, yeah. So about $877,000. So that would go into making this lot available for the plan that we already proposed. So you can see all the details in there, but most of that is just paving, fencing, and security updates. So everything in our improvement list is in line with the parking lot ordinance that passed a little while ago to make sure all parking lots, especially in the downtown and near downtown areas, are safe for the public, which is super important to us and then also the stakeholders in the area. Okay, next slide. So this is also more of an education slide, but people like to know where their tax dollars are going. So there's no taxpayer dollars used for this. This is a revenue bond, which just means that the revenues that are made from the operation of the property are used to pay for the debt that is issued. But also in the larger context, the parking division is an enterprise fund, so no taxpayer dollars go to fund the parking division. So any revenues or any money that the parking division makes go to cover our costs. Next slide. I've talked mostly already about just the community engagement and letting our stakeholders in the area know what the plan is, both the immediate and the long-term plan. So as neighborhoods develop, we know that the needs change. So we want to understand what we wanted to understand what the priorities of the district were, what the stakeholders around the area, what their priorities were, and make sure we were in line with that. And we know that will continue well past this phase as well. Cool. Next slide. So what a yes vote means, as I close, I'll just reiterate a few things. So again, we want to make sure that St. Louis is always a city that's growing economically and advancing. So that will do that. An intersection that would otherwise be vacant, I guess, or otherwise be a gas station. We're able to transform that and also just be able to prepare for the future. And then the public safety piece as well, making sure that we have a lot that one is secure, it's fenced, and it's operational is a big thing of public safety. And then we're maximizing the city's presence in that area, especially with the Shea Fitz being one of the premier venues nationwide, really. Next slide. Oh, that's it. So I will take any questions that you have, but that's it for my presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Starting in order of seniority. Do we have anybody from public to testify?
Yes, we have one individual that signed up.
All righty. For the individual who signed up to testify, would you like to raise your right hand so we can swear you in? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. You can come on up. You have 3 minutes. Just state your first and last name and then where you reside in, and then you can proceed.
Thank you. Hi. My name is Alec Belcher. I live in Dogtown, and I work in Midtown.
What's that ward? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Ward 4.
Thank you.
I'm here to oppose Board Bill 98 because I think we should not have a new parking lot or garage at Compton and Olive. New parking would rob us of a better land use for this location, like commercial space, housing, or a walkable destination, things that are a real investment in our community. I'd like to point out that 43% of households in Midtown do not own a vehicle, and they have few alternatives to driving. So I think that we need to be prioritizing building walkable infrastructure for these people, not just catering to people who just drive their cars through town. Because I think if you turn everything into a parking lot, there will be nothing left to visit anyway. So I've brought this picture showing every surface parking lot and garage in Midtown in black. As you can see, they're all over the place. This is not even show the extent of the street parking that is available, which is ample. The treasurer has said that a new garage would reduce the need for these private lots. But respectfully, I don't see how you solve an excess parking problem with more parking. I urge the Board of Aldermen to reevaluate Board Bill 98. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming today to testify. Do we have anybody online to testify, Madam Clerk?
We have none.
All right. Do we have any public comment? I mean,
Written.
what is it? Testimony submitted?
No.
No. All right. We'll start in order of seniority with Vice Chair Browning.
All right, thank you. Good to see you, Treasurer Wayne. So I was wondering, all the lots right now that exist in that space are owned by the same owner. Is that correct?
I don't know who the owner of those lots are. I would say probably not. I think there are, so if you're on Locust, there are some lots that are owned by the property managers of those different developments. So if those are similar developments, then yes, but I would probably say a lot of those are not owned by the same owner.
Well, what I mean is the lots that we're acquiring here.
Oh, just on this property. Okay, I thought you were referring for now. No, yes, they are owned by the same owner.
So what prevents that owner from just using this as a private parking lot and charging, for the spaces on their own?
Yep. So, I mean, if I could give an analogy, it's like if someone owns a 4-family house and they're selling it, they could also just say, well, what prevents them from just renting it out and, taking the proceeds there? So the owner just doesn't, well, one, want to be in the parking business, and they might have other capital needs for other projects. So it's just something they didn't want to do.
But if I'm reading this correctly, 58 of these 143 spaces are going to be reserved for the seller.
Not exactly the seller, but yes. So that would be an example of a master lease. So they are leasing spaces to make sure that Pappy still has their spaces. So those spaces are the ones in the rendering right behind Pappy's, and it would only be from 8 to 5, so during their operational businesses. So that's for their employees and customers.
So the rest of the time it would be a public lot, but between 8 and 5, it would be reserved for Pappy's and those businesses.
Yes, and essentially it's a public lot throughout those times because it would be the public parking there to go to Pappy's, but it would essentially be free parking so people going to Pappy's would not be charged to go to Pappy's.
Okay, and it's a master lease, so are they paying to rent those spaces to the city?
I believe
we would own it, but they would be using it?
I believe so. Is that accurate? Is that a master lease for the space?
If anybody, if you have anybody
Yes.
speaking, it'd be
Yep.
if they end up
it's-
just the mic, so that you're fine.
Yeah. So yes, it would be.
So what are the estimated costs for running this lot versus what would the city get from these spaces as a purchase price of? So these are for $5 million in bonds. I see that the assessment came around $3.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming we're not absolutely paying 5 million for this. We're paying about 3.5 potentially. And then there's obviously the improvements that need to be made for another 800 to 900,000. I'm just kind of curious about like the operation of this. This is an enterprise fund, since it has to be paid for, as you put it, the revenue bonds, revenues from the operation of the property are used to pay back the debt. So what would these spaces need to make in order to, and like how quickly do we expect to make up the cost of the acquisition and improvement of this property?
What does each space need to make?
Well, yeah, like what is the cost? What are the revenue projections?
Mhm.
Like how long would it take to pay off the cost of acquisition and improvement of this property?
So like any project, especially on a revenue bond, well, one, you don't get the bond unless you can pledge those revenues to it at least 1.2 to 1.9 times. So we're looking at 1.2 to 1.9, and we're going to be significantly over that, but 1.2 to 1.9 times what the annual services.
So just to clarify, you're saying 1.2 to 1.9 times what the annual service. So like, I'm not quite understanding. So is it that how many years, I suppose, like if you're buying a house, right, and you have a
Right.
mortgage, like you know you're going to pay it off in 30 years, you get a 30-year mortgage. Like what are we assuming?
Yes, so I understand what you're asking, and I will say in the parking business specifically for a lot, there are a lot of variables that go into that. So it's not like, again, if I use the word, unit, home example, it's not like, well, I charge $1,200 in rent for each unit, because you're going to have, it's almost like if you have 4 units and maybe you have a 6-month tenant, and then you also have Airbnb and some of the units at certain parts of the year. So we have both transient parking, we have master lease. One thing that could happen is that we do have master lease with another residential developer that might be there. So they could come in and say, we've previously parked here, or we haven't been able to park. So the revenues will come both from transit parking, from potential master leases, which we don't know about. It could also come from student parking, and then events change on a year-by-year basis. So even when we use our lots downtown, City Hall lot, Keel Garage, or the Enterprise Garage, every year there are a certain number of events, but those events are not the same. They don't all have the same demand. But that's why I said what we have to do is at least make sure that we're meeting our minimum debt service requirements, and we know that that is going to be at least 1.2 to 1.9 times what that annual payment would be.
Okay, yeah, because to go along with the analogy here, like if I did have a 4-family and I was renting it out, I'd at least want to make sure that the revenue I was getting from it was going to pay
Right.
the acquisition cost of it.
Absolutely.
Like if I say took out a mortgage to buy it, I want to make sure that the payments were at least paying the mortgage plus maintenance, and then hopefully a little extra too. Otherwise, what was the point of buying it?
Right, exactly. And your biggest thing there would be the demand, making sure that you fill the units. In terms of price, that's going to be dictated by the market. So I could talk about what prices are, but those are just our normal prices that we charge at our lots right now.
And you mentioned that the
Transient
prices
parking.
are usually a little more affordable than like private options. Is there a reason we offer cheaper parking than private options? Like, shouldn't it feels like we're subsidized a little bit for.
We are, Mr. Browning. If you would like for us to increase it, we can do that, but I would caution against it. So one of the lots that we operate is City Hall lot, right? And most of the folks who park there are city parkers at a monthly rate. And if we were to increase that, a majority of our parkers are, city parkers, especially at our garages. So where a garage over by T-Rex might be charging $200 a month, probably at, 120, 110 for our garages here, not because of the location or the type of garage or the upkeep, but mainly because we want to keep prices affordable. And we know that, as an enterprise fund, our goal is not to, make as much money as possible. We still want to be fiscally responsible, but we understand who we're working for. And it's, at least in these garages and lots here, it's for our city employees. So it would be unreasonable for us to increase those.
Yeah, and obviously I'd want to look into it more with more information about what price, we're charging versus the demand, and how we're kind of inducing demand by perhaps provide, as you put it, an excess of parking, kind of encourages people to drive to the event rather than find alternate ways to go. But that being said, if you've ever tried to take the Metrolink to like Chaffetz Arena, it's not really a pleasant way to get there because one, that stop is underneath the highway, and you have to kind of go up and walk along a really busy street that doesn't have a great sidewalk, and it's just kind of not a walkable area. But that's a tangent. I think I'm just kind of focused on the cost because if you're looking at $5 million for 143 spots, really 85 spots that are ours 100% of the time, that works out to be about 58,000 spots and $824 per spot. It typically costs $1,500. Just quick research here, but I was looking at clearly costs about $1,500 to $3,500 per parking space for like a surface parking lot, $25,000 to $35,000 for space for an above ground garage. This feels like we're overpaying for a parking lot, but I'm trying to hear from you, like, what is it that makes this land at this price that makes this deal work well for the city?
So if you could clarify a little more the overpayment part. So we are actually, so our purchase price is under the appraisal price, and we also used our comp. So like I said, we're in the parking business, so we actually used CompStat. We did have a sale back in 2021 or 2022 for one of our properties as well that's over down by the landing. So when you say overvalued, I'm trying to understand.
Well, just to be clear, what is the sale price? Like, what are we buying? What is the property being bought for?
I believe it's in the packet, but is it 0.2? 3.4.
So 3.4 million. So like if I just do the math here, 3.4 million divided by, we'll just do it for the 143 spots, that comes out to be about 23,000 per spot. So that's like the cost of building a parking garage, but it's for a surface lot instead.
The other prices that you just mentioned, what were those again?
So typically 1,500 to 3,500 per parking space for a surface lot versus 25,000.
I'm sorry, I can't. 15 to 30.
1,500 per 3,000, 3,500. Like, so it can range depending on the amenities you're offering, gated or lighted or cameras or whatnot.
And we're within that range?
Well, this would put us at, if you're looking at the 143 spots, about 23,776 per spot at a purchase price of about 3.4 million. That's like we're building a parking garage, but we're not.
You said surface lot.
Sorry, what was that?
You said surface lot.
Right. Well, so the surface lot cost is much cheaper. It'd be like 1,500 to 3,500 per spot. But at 3.4 million for 143 spaces, I'm looking at 23,776 per spot, and that's more in line with like if we were building a parking garage. So is there? And I know you mentioned that we might build a parking garage at some point in the future, but that doesn't.
We've also built parking garages, and I can tell you that's not the going rate. We were looking at a parking garage not too long ago, right downtown behind Wash Ave, working with SLDC on that. And when we got our numbers in, we were looking at 48 to 50,000 a space. So I think it's helpful to know what your numbers are based on, and all garages are different, all lots are different for sure. But when we're talking about construction costs and where they've gone since 2020, I will
happily concede to you that a parking garage might cost more than that. But I think my point being that I think per spot for a surface parking lot, 23,000 seems a little bit like a lot for a surface parking lot of 143 spaces.
I don't feel like the numbers you presented justify that. I feel like you said that we were in that range, but that range is not for a parking garage.
Right. So I don't want to confuse it here, but what I'm saying is 1,500 to 3,500 per parking space for a surface lot, and we're in this deal, we would be paying 23,000,
15,000.
1,500 per spot, right? So
Okay.
yeah, and we can do it per square footage too. Like there's different ways to figure it out. But I'm saying that I think that we're paying a lot of money per spot here. So that's why I'm just trying to make sure that we are doing a good deal for the city. It kind of, if this was like for a garage and we were looking at something like what the treasurer's office operates in 9 North in the Central West End, you're familiar with that garage, I'm assuming, like where there's apartments above and retail on the first floor. I think that would be a great use for this property. I am concerned about the purchase price that we're making this property for, and then the projected or kind of iffy revenue. I don't know that we're looking at guaranteed revenue that justifies a purchase price of $3.4 million.
Okay.
But if you have more information on that, I'd love to see it.
I don't know what more information I can provide for you other than an appraisal of the value and its developments. I don't know what else would be needed. So I'm going to have to respectfully disagree on the pricing just based on I don't really know what your basis for your prices are, one, and also what we've actually come to the board to sell property at. So if we've been able to sell at a certain price, which is, well, in line with what we've done historically, I don't know how buying at a similar price within a similar range under that is. But I mean, your numbers are your numbers. We did our due diligence. Ours, I'd be happy to talk more about the basis for our appraisal. I'd be happy to look at comps with you. Again, tried to put up a garage and couldn't make the financing work, and a garage for 19,000 or 1,900 a space. I'd like to see it. If you could point me in that direction, we'll talk to their bondholders.
Yeah. So like what I'm saying is typically a surface parking lot can cost like $1,500 per spot, right? And we're paying $23,000 under this deal for each spot at a total price of about 3.4 million, plus then the 800 or so thousand of improvements. So I guess what I'm looking for is like a financial analysis of this to show that we will be able to recoup the cost from these 143 spaces and how much that would take
For sure.
to meet that cost.
So again, I'm not confused about what you said your numbers are. I just don't know where the numbers are based from.
Just
One-
quick Googling. Happy to share, the sources with you. It's kind of difficult to do so in this format, but
I get it.
can
And
follow
I would say, I guess it would have saved us money to Google, but we did get an appraisal, which cost a bit of money just to make sure that, you all had enough information to make the best decision possible, which I get. And then I would say the third thing is we don't just create our own bonds, so we have to go out for bond financing. So if there was a financial entity, a bank, an investment company that didn't feel like once we presented our valuation as well as our revenue projections that we wouldn't be able to secure the bond, they won't issue one.
Okay. So I don't want to belabor this further. I think I'm going to vote present on this today. But if we can talk after this and figure these numbers out, I'm happy to support this in the future if we can figure out the cost per square foot and all that, and just, have the numbers make sense. The other thing I just want to, I reiterate is that I think that a mixed use development on this corner would be like Compton and Olive are two major roads, right? And so we have this opportunity to create kind of like the member from the public today, Mr. Belcher, said, like a much longer term beneficial development here. I think there's an opportunity to both provide parking and another use, but right now, it feels like we're paying a lot of money to obtain a private parking lot, turn it into a public parking lot, but then still give a lot of spaces to the private entity we're buying it from, and the deal just doesn't quite make sense to me. So, again, I'll love to connect with you after this, but
Sure, we can. I will say for the public though, the parking lot isn't the final stop. I did say that we want to make sure that it's in line with what the development goals of the neighborhood are and the district are. We did pitch to the district an opportunity because they said there was a need for workforce housing and student housing in the area, particularly for SLU and Harris Stowe students. And so those are things that are on the table, and making sure that there is a residential pad above that. And I will say those things happen when, we can't plan for something that we don't own. So we can plan right now. We know it is up for sale right now, and we can make sure there's availability for parking given the demands now. For the future developments, we're definitely building this with the intent to make sure that it doesn't remain or it can only be a parking lot. So we're building that pad, we're building that area to make sure that there's an opportunity for there to be residential above it. But again, that doesn't happen if we don't own it. And then, yes, we can talk, but mathematically, the cost doesn't go down if we, one, have less spots, one, and then two, yes, those 40 spaces are reserved, but those are paid spots as well, and spots that will be used.
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Alderwoman Velasquez.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Treasurer Lane, for being here. I'm not going to get too much into the numbers. I think my question is, obviously, for Alderwoman Keys too, I know this is her ward and she knows this neighborhood well. I think my question is a little bit in line with the broader question Alderman Browning was asking is, does this fit into the neighborhood, the area's broader development plans, and is this, the highest and best use for this land? I know that it's an important area, and obviously we want to support businesses, but just wondering how this fits into the long-term plans to boost that neighborhood.
Yep. So I can speak a little bit to it from my conversations with the developers in the area and members of the improvement district, and then Alderwoman Keys, if you want to say anything else. But we had been approached, since my tenure here, a number of times about parking in the district. If you leave just the Olive side and you go to Locust, a lot of development has happened in that area. There is street parking up and down the corridor, but mostly that's for the businesses, and you have a lot more residential in that area. You also have the Kranzberg Foundation that's looking to extend into that area as well and make that a connecting point as we try to get our neighborhoods more connected and walkable. And as we do that, St. Louis is St. Louis where I didn't need a car either. But St. Louis is a place where you drive to your destination. But if we can make it so people drive to a destination, but then are able to walk for miles to all their attractions, I think that is a great thing. We, like I said, we've been approached by a lot of developers that are looking to have more retail there. And their hindrance there, they're not approaching us to put up retail, but their hindrance, they're saying there isn't enough parking to be able to support the addition of more retail and more business storefronts, but they don't want, parking to have to be a private thing where you have each storefront has to have its own private parking lot. So they're looking for the city to lead in this way. So that's what I've seen from the conversations that I've had, but I'll pass it over to the Alderwoman.
Thank you for the question, Alderwoman Velasquez. So where this lot sits, it really is at a place that is a little Grand Center, a little Midtown, little Locust Business District. And we are expanding. There are a lot of businesses that have come into the area within the last 2 years. There are more coming, more developments coming to make the area a more walkable community. There does need to be a place for people who are coming in from other places, park their car and be able to walk to an event at, for instance, let's say the Sovereign or over to Energizer Park or whatever. And so there is a need here. In addition, as Treasurer Lane spoke about, sorry, it's tipping over, as Treasurer Lane spoke about, is that there are some soft plans for future development on this very lot. But the big thing is that to support Harris Stowe, as well as the other businesses, and especially Pappy's, who is looking to expand their hours. They've never had hours, about where they're trying to get to, because parking has been an issue. So providing a well-lit parking lot with surveillance cameras, a place to park in your electric car if you have it. So that's more of the way that we're looking at this thing as being a great thing for the area.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Do we have they written letters of support? I know sometimes neighborhoods don't always fully reflect, associations always reflect everybody in an area, but have any of those associations
They have both,
written?
yes.
They have both the Locust Business District and
And they should be in the drive.
okay,
Mhm.
perfect. I missed that. My fault. Okay, and then my next, thank you, Alderwoman.
Thank
My
you.
final question is just in the event, I know we just went through a bunch of numbers in the last conversation. My brain hurts a little bit from that. But just supposing, how dependent is this project on the revenue of Pappy's, and, kind of what are the other, I mean, not that we would want a business we would want them to go away, but I mean, what are the kind of projections? How are you basing it on the revenue from the businesses and how that is going to support it? And, say one of these does go out of business, or Chaffetz, has a slow season. Again, hopefully these things aren't going to happen, but, you know, how are the projections and how is that math?
Yeah. So we work that into our financial projections for the revenue calculator, or for the calculator for the revenue bonds, Alderwoman. So we look at what would it look like in a high season, average, and low. Again, the best thing, well, one, we always do, we do demand studies. So we look at what is the current demand in that area, what are they currently bringing in, and then we look at those events and what we charge. So we look at that to get our revenue projections. And having seen what those look like, I don't doubt our ability to more than cover our debt service ratio to issue these revenue bonds. In down years, again, we saw that with, I guess the best example I can give you is with COVID. So once COVID hit in 2020, we can operate 15 garages and lots. So we saw that downturn, especially in the downtown area. And I will say, if we can make it through COVID, we can make it through a year of maybe the Chaffetz Center events going down. I don't project or see that happening. Like I said, we have the national numbers to show like just how much of a standout they are on the national level in terms of events. But to your main question, our revenues are not just dependent on Pappy's. One, they have some spots, but it's not just them. It's the entire area, and that area has significant demand from things that are going on at Harris Stowe, things that are going on at Chaffetz, and also on Locust and Olive. You're on mute, Alderman.
Any other questions? Thank you, Treasurer Lane. Thank you, Chairman.
Alderman Devotie.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Treasurer and Alderwoman. I appreciate the presentation. I had the pleasure of practicing for a handful of years at the intersection of Compton and Washington Avenue. So I am very, very familiar with the area. Treasurer, you said something that I found interesting, and that is with respect to need in the area, general need in the area for additional parking. When I think of the area, I think of, and Alderwoman Keys mentioned it, the Locust District and the number of small businesses that are growing up along Locust, but also Washington Avenue. To what extent do you think Olive serves as a hindrance when we talk about pedestrian traffic or walkers? I know that when I worked in the area and I was walking to lunch, typically I would avoid crossing Olive. Mm-hmm. Is that an issue in your mind? I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Especially in that area, I would say absolutely. And when events are happening, even more so. I would say cars on the Compton side tend to move a little. I try to go to events as much as I can, but on the Compton side, they'll move a little slower because folks are trying to ingress and egress into spots and parking. But on the Olive side, cars are flying and it's pretty wide, and you'll see folks going in and out. I would definitely think that some more pedestrian-friendly measures could be put in place. I don't know. I guess we all call it traffic calming or street narrowing or something. I think that would be helpful along that strip because I think it would be helpful because it can be
Okay.
dangerous and daunting to cross over Olive.
So to be clear, when we talk about the development of business or serving potential folks coming to the area, we're really talking about then serving folks that are attending events or visiting the area. I guess that would be south of Olive, whether it's for Chaffetz, whether it's for Pappy's, whether it's for students visiting the Harris Stowe bookstore. Is that right then?
I would say yes, but I wouldn't just say south of Olive just because of what the Locust Street presents as well. And again, if I can hop across Olive and get to Locust, the world is my oyster going up and down that street and only have to worry about parking, one place. I mean, during the events, even at the Chaffetz, I've seen folks. I forget the name of there's a sports bar and lounge closer to Grand, right over in that area, and folks will walk down that way all the way to the Chaffetz to get there. So I do agree, if we create more walkable spaces and increase that density, folks will park and walk. As an East Coast native, it's what most other places do. You park and you walk forever, and then you hopefully remember where your car was.
I think you're referring to the Field House. In a couple of weeks, that'll be the place everybody will want to watch the Billikens, right? March Madness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that, I guess that then goes to, and I think there was a reference earlier to overpayment for the lot, which I know you took issue with, and I respect that. I know that you've mentioned the appraisal that your office commissioned, and thank you for doing that. What caught my attention, and perhaps I'm misremembering, but when word of this was originally hit the press, and maybe Alderwoman Keys might be a better person to answer this question, but my memory is, Alderwoman, that you expressed some reservation about the price tag. That the thought was, and again, if I am misremembering, please straighten me out. But the thought being is that a more comparable rate for what parcels are going in the area would be near $1 million or in that ballpark. So if one of you would maybe educate me, and I know you've got the appraisal, but we also know how appraisals work. Alderwoman, maybe you could educate us on what you have learned since those initial reports that caused you to file this particular bill.
Thank you, Alderman Devotie. So initially, when the bill was first presented, yes, I had some serious concerns because I wanted to see an appraisal. That I did believe that $5 million was too much, and that was my perception, that was the cost. And so now we have the appraisal. I'm satisfied with that. And there was a lack of communication that we've been able to get past and sit down with the team in the Treasurer's office and go through this thing to examine if this is truly something that could be beneficial to the area. So the area there at Grand Center, Midtown, all of those things kind of converge. And there are a ton of great venues in the area, and people drive in from Illinois, they drive in from our various counties and other areas of our city to enjoy what those venues have to offer to our citizenry. And so having a lot and not to throw shade at Chaffetz, but I've been there, and there have been times where, I went to a concert or something, and it's a garage, and it takes you a while to get out of there. And so to have the option to park on a flat lot, to be able to have one way in and one way out, I think would be beneficial to people who are going to various restaurants. Shout out to the Kranzbergs who are doing phenomenal work in bringing entertainment venues to Midtown and to Grand Center. And so I do believe that this is a good thing. I am satisfied with the appraisal that we now have.
Alderwoman, I know you know the area much better than I, but when we talk about growing the what I think of it as the Grand Center or the Locust Business District, do you have a thought about whether a better investment in parking would be on the north side of Olive versus this particular lot? Can you educate me your thoughts there?
I don't know that there is a place on the north side of Olive that is, available for this sort of thing. This is a place that has presented itself for purchase, and the first initial conversations that we had, and we're continuing to have, is that how can we bring that into a multi-use place where there's living, garage space as well. And that's exciting, especially for Harris Stowe students or people who live in the area who, don't want to have a car. They could live right, close to where they work or where they own their business. So I think that this is a really great thing that we have the opportunity to be enjoined in.
Finally, Alderwoman, I know the treasurer made mention of other potential buyers. Do you know through your seat, do we know anything about those other potential buyers and any of their proposed uses or what their plan might be?
I don't have any of that information. We already said no to gas stations. So we
gas station.
I don't even count. I'm sorry, I don't even count gas stations as a serious proposal, simply because we are inundated with gas stations. And I really believe in the elevated 11th Ward, and I've said this many times to those persons who have contacted me about yet another gas station, is why do you think I need that in my community? My community is not clamoring for yet another gas station or convenience store. And so, like I said, I'm almost dismissive because I wanted to hear something really substantive about what the people in my community want. And I guarantee you, it's not gas stations.
Fair enough. Last question. With respect to, and if the appraisals were provided, I missed it, I overlooked it. But it sounds like you've reviewed the appraisals that the Treasurer's Office commissioned, and you are satisfied with the numbers you've seen. Is that a fair statement?
I am satisfied at this point. We understand that it's going to still take, even though the tanks are out of the ground, we still understand that some work has to be done. The resurfacing, adding of additional lighting to make it a bright and inviting place that you feel safe parking and walking away from your vehicles, security cameras, as well as being able to accommodate people who drive the new electronic vehicles. So I'm okay at this point.
Thank you, Alderwoman. Thank you, Treasurer, and thank you, Chair. Appreciate your patience.
And Mr. Chair, if I could add, just for one of the questions that Alderman Devotie had asked. So one of the questions you asked brought up a great point, Alderman. Oh, you didn't say yes silently. Anyway, I don't want to say.
Sure, you can proceed, Mr. Treasurer.
One of the things you did bring up was just, the questions that you asked got me to think about what is the opportunity cost of the city not having this space, right? So we could not purchase this parcel, and a private entity could purchase it. The seller could say, well, I don't want to own this. Someone else can open it. and I'm going to take my cash and go, and that's fine. And we think about the opportunity cost. Is that still going to serve Pappy's as a business? If you have a private lot entity that says, well, we want to charge market rates, and this is, or non-market rates, and this is just what we're going to charge. And what does that do to the current businesses that are there and have been operating in that time frame? But also, if a gas station does go up and they're doing really well, and the neighborhood comes back and says, well, we like to do this. Well, I'm a private gas station owner. I don't have to do anything. Whereas, with the city, we have an opportunity to say, okay, well, if these are the needs and the growing concerns of this neighborhood, this is where we can be flexible, turning a lot into a garage with residential, or turning a lot into a green space. We have that opportunity as a city, but that's an opportunity that we forego if we don't step in. And it's like, we could not, but what do we forego?
Thank you, Treasurer, and thank you for making the point that I asked a good question that made you think of a good point.
Several good questions.
Because I know the chair loves hearing things like that, so it's appreciated.
I always appreciate the amazing questions that come from the newest member of this budget committee, Alderman Devotie. He gets so lawyery. You almost thought he was a lawyer or something, the way he just dissect those questions. And to that, I will say, one, I support the legislation. The last thing you just brought up, Mr. Treasurer, is, I think that's a really good point, that city taking this on gives a better opportunity to work with stakeholders in the community and the alder person to figure out what that development is. It sounds like the city wasn't to get this parcel that the private operate, or the people that wanted to privately own it, would turn it to a gas station. And I totally support the alderwoman at 11th Ward. Northside, even though this is the unique part of our ward where we got, North and kind of Midtown, and we've been working very closely when you talk about development in the Locust Business District. We've been working with the Locust Business District. We actually got some appointments coming up this week to bring more development to that area. I think it's some really exciting things that's coming, but Northside is already saturated with gas stations. And if you just look at the map at Jefferson and Delmore, my ward, there's already, not too far from this location, is a gas station. You go a little further down, Jefferson by 40 is another gas station. So there's really no need. So I do love the idea of being able to city owning this to figure out what that development is. If it's a surface parking lot, it makes it a lot easier to kind of build from there. And I love that you guys are already looking at safety requirements. This Board of Aldermen passed my Board Bill 44, and 2324 that talk about the requirements that are needed on surface parking lots, from lighting and bollards, which I see is in the legislation that you guys talk about, security cameras and all that, to make sure that these surface parking lots are safe. So, I support it. It sounds like there's no other use really that would go there privately besides a gas station. So, this is, I think, I know we wrestle with in the city of people feeling like we do have too many parking lots, and I understand that. But hopefully there could be future growth for the surface parking lot for something else. I love the access that you're providing the Harris Stowe from the bookstore, for them to actually not have to walk all the way around and go all the way down Compton through the entrance to be, coming out of Compton. So I think this would be a great addition. Also want to let members know, in the drive, there is the letter of support from Pappy's that talk about the lack of parking that they have, with over having 35,000 patrons that comes to the business on a regular, and how this would be able to support more people coming to Pappy's and extending those hours to be able to come. So that letter of support is in the drive. I want to make note of that. Unless any other committee members have any questions, I will allow the alderwoman from the elevated 11th to come on up and close on out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love the way you say elevated 11th Ward.
From the mighty 14th to the elevated 11th, we love working with each other.
Yes, indeed. So having provided all of the information about this particular bill, I would ask for your due pass recommendation and favorable support of this bill. Thank you.
I'll make the motion that we pass Board Bill 98 out with the do pass recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Sanye, Vice Chair Browning,
Present.
Alderwoman Velazquez,
Aye.
Alderman Devoti,
Aye.
Chair Aldred,
Aye.
Alderwoman Sanye. We have one present, 3 ayes.
With that, we have passed Board Bill 98 out with a do pass recommendation. Congratulations, Alderwoman Keys.
I just wanted to say thank you all so much for your time and patience in listening this morning.
No problem. With one board bill, we only took an hour just to get through that one. So, very good questions and comments. All right. With no other board bills for review, no resolution, committee discussion, we already acknowledge there's no written testimony. Outside of the public support, there is also another public support letter in the drive from the real estate company that we also have in front of us in the drive. With that, I will, no announcements. Any announcements? None. I would like to excuse the Alderwoman from the 7th for necessary absence. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, aye. Opposed? Motion carries.